Welcome to Salacious TV, where we share some of the most salacious stories on the internet. Before we get into today's story, we humbly ask that you would like this video and subscribe to our channel. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really helps us out.
I don't know how to tell this story, so I'll just get right to it. My wife, Lillian, thought that spending a night with another man would be fun. Believe it or not, she also thought I wouldn't mind. She may have been right thinking that having relations with another man might be fun for her. But she certainly screwed the hell up thinking that I was some type of simp and that I would go along with my wife being with another man. We began seeing each other in high school and we've been together ever since. She has been my only partner, and up until now I had no reason to believe that I had not been her only partner. My cell rang. I looked to see if I knew who was calling. Because of my line of work, I give my number to everyone. It's even on social media, so I get calls from numbers I don't recognize all the time, and when it rings, if I want to make money, I need to answer it. I am able to deal with the legitimate calls where honest people are trying to make a living. But I absolutely despise the scam artists and thieves and the ED salesmen from foreign countries. So as soon as I recognize them, I quickly tell them how I plan to find them and beat the stuffing out of them. They tend to hang up pretty quickly after that. Anyway, my cell phone rang. The screen showed it was Lillian's office number. Why was she calling from her office phone instead of her cell phone? I answered. "Hello, sweetie."
Dave Williams. My name is Adam Barnes, and I work with your wife.
"What can I do for you, Mr. Barnes?"
I think it's more like what I can do for you. I have some info about your wife that I think you should know. Are you available to meet me around 1 o'clock today?
"What kind of info? Is something wrong with my wife? Is she all right?"
Yes, sir. She was fine the last time I saw her. And in regards to the info, I think it would be better if I shared it with you in person.
"Listen, Barnes, I don't know what kind of joke you and Lillian are trying to play here, but I don't have time for it. Just tell her that I'll see her at the house."
Wait, Mr. Williams. This is no joke, and she doesn't know I'm calling. I'll share this much over the phone. Meet me, and you might be able to stop your wife from having an affair. I will be at the Curve restaurant at 1. It is on the corner of Evans and Capitol. I am wearing a black suit with a gray tie.
He hung up, and I just sat there saying to myself, WTF. Some random guy has just told me that I might be able to stop my wife from giving herself to another man if I meet him. If this was her idea of a joke, there ain't a doggone thing funny about it. So now what do? Do I meet this Barnes guy and fall for the joke? Even worse, what if this is not a joke? What do I do? At 1 I was standing outside the Curve. A man approached me and asked if I were David Williams. I said yes, and he suggested that we just walk for a while to avoid anyone overhearing us. So we started in the direction of the city square. We had just started walking when I asked what this was all about.
I started working with your wife Lillian 5 months ago. We work in the same division. Almost immediately, I started hearing rumors about her and one of our coworkers. It was another week or so before I started seeing things for myself. His name is Jim Turner. They go to lunch together almost every day. They have made no secret of whatever it is that they have going on. Today, almost everyone in the office overheard them talking about how they were going out tomorrow night. They've decided to go to the Radisson because it has a nice restaurant, and tomorrow night there will be live music. They said with no discretion that they plan on having dinner and then dance to the live music before spending the night together. Turner is such a dirtbag that he called to reserve the room in front of coworkers. I kid you not. Your wife is out shopping for clothes for their date right now.
Tomorrow night. And spending the night together. How in the hell do they expect to accomplish that?
She literally said that she is going to tell you the truth. In her mind, you love her enough, or you are such a simp that you will allow her to sleep with another man. I personally overheard that last week. She honestly believes that sleeping with another man will not affect your marriage in any way, and I guess that's why they have no qualms talking openly about their plans. She really doesn't think you will have a problem with it.
Barnes, why in the hell are you telling me this?
Listen, I was married for 11 years, and my wife had an affair. The legal system jacked me over. My ex-wife and her no-good boyfriend are now living in the house that I pay for, and my children are calling that disgusting POS daddy. And me? Oh, I'm living in a dump of an apartment and eating fast food 5 nights a week. And I'm telling you this to hopefully keep you from ending up like me. I wouldn't wish my current situation on any man.
So what do I do now? Do I confront Lillian or ignore the information I had just received? Wait and see what happens. I decided to be proactive. But how do you be proactive in a situation that may not even exist? Well, I decided that I would start by covering all my bases. Did I want to give her the benefit of the doubt? Of course, but I anticipated the worst-case scenario. I decided that my first course of action would be to find a private investigator. I typed in private investigator near me, and dozens popped up. I picked one, called, and was told to come right over. 45 minutes later, I was in his office. 2 hours after that, he had a bunch of my money, and we had a plan. Now it was time to go home. My mind was spinning. I didn't know how I was going to act around her tonight. She was home when I got there. When I walked in, she came up to me for our usual kiss and hug. I had given a lot of thought about how I should act. I could either act normally, in which case she would assume that everything was okay and her plans could continue, if indeed she actually had any plans, or I could, in some way, hint to her about what I had heard. If I did, she could deny everything and postpone it until things blew over. If she was considering doing it now, what would prevent her from reconsidering or even actually doing it sometime in the future? I had no intention of living with that possibility. The other side of the coin, of course, was that if she knew I suspected her, it might cause her to abandon their plan. I wanted to confront her about it right now, but I eventually decided to act normally. Around 10:30, I went upstairs to get ready for bed. Lillian was already asleep. I took my shower and went to bed, but I didn't sleep. At 6:30 the next morning, she got up, got dressed, and went downstairs. A few minutes later, I got up and went downstairs. She was gone. I can count on one hand the number of times one of us left the house without a kiss goodbye. This was one of them. It was Friday, and normally a good day for selling cars, but I called my boss and told him I was going to take the morning off. I called the attorney that the dealership uses and asked him if he knew a good divorce attorney. He said yes and referred me to his wife. Then he said,
I need to warn you. She hates husbands who mess around on their wives, so if you did, she won't take your case.
He called her and sent me to her office. I told her about my conversation with Adam Barnes. Her first question was, why did I think it necessary to consult a lawyer and hire an investigator based solely on the story of a total stranger? I told her about my personal intolerance for adultery or anything approaching it. She said okay and then recommended that I wait and confirm his story. She also said that if Lillian was as confident as Barnes had indicated that our marriage would not be hurt, she really had nothing to lose by having a little fling. I informed her that there was no way I would tolerate infidelity, little or otherwise. And if Lillian went through with her plans tonight, I wanted to be able to serve her harass no later than Monday. If Barnes was either lying or mistaken, I might have to be prepared to eat a lot of crow, but if he was telling the truth, I would be ready. She assured me that the paperwork would be ready. She just needed to know the location to serve her with the paperwork if it came to that. I decided to ride around and spend hours driving around in circles. I couldn't believe this was happening to me. I checked with my investigator and was assured that everything was ready. I had enough of mindless driving and decided to head home. I pulled into the garage and Lillian's car was in its usual spot. I went inside and didn't smell anything to indicate that dinner was being cooked. I put the package my investigator gave me on the mantel and resisted the urge to find her. I sat in my recliner and waited to see what would happen. I didn't have to wait long. At 5:45 she came downstairs dressed to kill in what apparently were the clothes Adam Barnes told me she had been shopping for the day before. She was gorgeous and had her overnight case with her. Wow, you look great. What's going on?
One of the guys at work has been after me to go out with him, and I decided that it would be fun.
What do you mean go out with him? Like on a date?
Yes.
What kind of a date?
Well, since you are the only man I have ever been with, I thought that it might be fun for me to have relations with someone else. So we are going to dinner, then we're going dancing, and then we're going to spend the night at a hotel.
I couldn't believe that the woman I married, the woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with, just casually told me she was going to sleep with another man. What? You're spending the night with another man? There's no way in hell that I will agree to something like that. And who the hell is this we are talking about? I wasn't asked about this.
Dave, it's no big deal. Just one night of playing around. Tomorrow I'll be home and it will be like nothing ever happened. Besides, I might learn a trick or two you might enjoy.
There is no way you're going out tonight with someone else.
Yes, I am.
Lillian, if you do this, our marriage is over. Just then we heard a car horn.
That's him.
She said, heading to the front door. I beat her there. I stood between her and the door and said, "Don't you dare do this."
Dave, move. I have to go.
She walked around me and then had the nerve enough to try to kiss me.
I will be home about 1 tomorrow and everything will be just fine.
If you get your ass in that car, you won't have a home to come back to.
Now you're really being silly. When I get home tomorrow, we will enjoy each other.
She blew me a kiss on her way out the door. I didn't watch her get in the car. I walked to the mantel and turned off the recorder I had put there. I took some garbage bags and plastic containers upstairs. It took me 5 hours to remove all of her belongings from the house. I cleaned out her closet. I cleaned out her side of the medicine cabinet. I cleaned out her dresser drawers, all of her jewelry. I meticulously gathered everything that she owned and jammed everything in her car. Then I backed it out of the garage and parked it on the street. I threw the damn keys on the driver's seat. I went to bed and tried to sleep. Didn't happen. Knowing that the woman that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with was out with another man messed me up. I tossed and turned all night. 1 minute I was consumed with hurt. The next minute I was consumed with anger. This went on for 2 nights. I had no sleep. I felt like a zombie. I was at the dealership early. By 10:30 I had closed the deal with the Davidsons from the day before, and they were driving off the lot in their highly discounted sports car. I had also done all of the financial stuff that was required. At 10:45, I was home and received the new set of house keys from the locksmith. My investigator was also there with copies of the videos he had made over the last 18 hours. At 11 o'clock, I was watching a video I had received from my investigator when I heard the front door bell. I went to the door and opened it.
Hi, baby. My key doesn't work, and why is my car on the street?
I stood in the doorway blocking her from coming in. Your key doesn't work because you don't live here anymore. And your car is on the street because since you don't live here anymore, I didn't want it in my garage.
What? This is my house. Let me in.
She tried to go around me. I told you last night that if you got in that man's car, you wouldn't have a home to come back to. So all of your stuff is in your car.
You can't be serious.
I didn't hear the rest of what she said because I slammed the door in her face. She beat on the door for several minutes before I opened it. If you don't stop beating on my door, I'll call the police.
You can't do that. This is my house.
This house is in my name, so it's not your house. Now get out of here. I slammed the door in her face for the second time and went back to watching the tape. I looked out the front window. She was sitting in her car. I went to the kitchen for a drink of water but changed my mind and had some bourbon instead. I watched more of the tape. During the course of the afternoon, all I could do was see red. The doorbell rang and it continued to ring. If it is Lillian again, I don't know what I'll do. I went to the door and jerked it open to find her sister, Melissa, standing there leaning on the doorbell. I just looked at her.
You are a piece of sh. My sister is sitting in my living room bawling her eyes out, and I want to know why.
I told her to leave and then slammed the door in her face. I turned to go back into the room and the bell started again. I opened the door, and before she had a chance to say a word, I slapped her hand off the doorbell so hard she lost her balance and almost fell. Listen, if you ring that bell again, I will break your fingers. I started to slam the door yet again. She put her body against it and held it open.
Dave, please talk to me.
I let her in. She walked into the room and stopped. Then she looked at me.
I thought you loved Lillian. I can't believe you kicked her out over such a stupid disagreement.
Stupid disagreement. She told you we had a stupid disagreement.
She told me that last night you didn't agree with her about going out and that you kicked her out because of it.
Oh, my God. She is right about a disagreement. She did want to go out, and I didn't want her to. Did she tell you that the person she wanted to go out with wasn't me, that it was a guy she worked with?
You've got to be kidding.
And did she tell you that their plan was to have dinner, then go dancing, and then spend the night in a hotel room?
You can't be serious. You're making this up.
She sat down. And did she tell you that she was going to come home today and show me what she had learned? Listen to this. I played her the audio recording I had made the night before.
I had no idea.
Yay. Well, neither did I.
What are you going to do?
This marriage is over. I'm filing for divorce.
Dave, no. Any chance at all of getting past it?
I shook my head no. She was about to say something else, but I stopped her. Look, Melissa, I have no intention of either forgiving or forgetting what she did. This marriage is over. Period. I walked her to the door. She stood there and looked at me. I opened the door and ushered her out. For the rest of that evening I did nothing. I was beginning to feel sorry for myself. My marriage was over. Then there was a knock on the door. It was Melissa.
You said that if I rang the bell again, you would break my fingers. So I knocked. This won't take long. I have spent the day talking to Lillian. What you told me is true. It wasn't easy for her to tell me about her date, but she finally confessed. What you don't know is that nothing happened.
I indicated that she should come in and sit. I sat across from her. What do you mean nothing happened?
She said that after you picked her up, they went to the hotel. Before dinner, they ordered champagne and had finished half of it by the time the waiter took their order. By the time dinner hit the table, they were working on their second bottle of champagne. Halfway through dinner, it was empty. After drinking all of that champagne, they were both too drunk to dance, so they went upstairs to their room. They did intend on doing it, but were too drunk. They both passed out. She was the first to wake up, and she realized what she had done. She woke him up and insisted that he drive her home.
Well, that's a story.
You believe her, don't you?
What I believe is that she and some jackass spent days, maybe weeks or months, planning a date. They spent time together at lunch and work. Maybe even after work. They plotted and they schemed. During the time they spent together, they got closer. They laughed together, woke together, exchanged personal info. Heck, his punk behind probably knows more about my marriage than I do. No, I know he does. He knew my wife planned to cheat on me. They probably held hands, maybe kissed, or even fondled each other. They planned to spend the evening and night together so they could have relations. That's not love. That's the ultimate betrayal.
So, you don't believe her?
Hell no.
And you're not going to forgive her, even though nothing happened?
Hell no. We got to the door and she opened it. She paused.
When this is over, can we still be friends?
Lillian and I are going to be divorced. If she contests it in any way, it is going to be messy. By the time it is over, you will probably not like me, so any friendship we have will most likely go away.
I see. Well, it could have been nice. I think I'm going to miss you.
With that, she kissed my right cheek. I kissed her back. We embraced. I always thought she was hot, and she seemed to be in no hurry to let me go. I was somewhat surprised, but as I was still reeling with Lillian's betrayal, I didn't really grasp what had just happened between us. Then she left softly, closing the door behind her. Since Saturday afternoon, my phone had been off more than it was on. Lillian had tried too many times to count to talk to me, but had finally given up. I did have a talk with her mother. He tried to convince me that since nothing had happened between Lillian and Jim, that no foul play had taken place, so we should just get over it. I explained it to him the same way I had to Melissa. When we ended the conversation, he knew that divorce was inevitable. Monday came. The first thing I did was call my attorney. I told her about the weekend. I also told her to serve Lillian. She would be either at work or at her sister's house. My attorney assured me that she would be served before day's end. It was a long day, and I don't remember anything I did. Shortly after 5 in the afternoon, my cell rang. I looked to see who was calling. It was Lillian's office number. I took a chance and answered it. Dave Williams.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams. This is Adam Barnes. I thought you might like to know that there was some excitement in the office today.
Really?
Yep. Your lawyer served your wife with divorce papers, and after she read the papers, she fell out. The fire department was called, and they took her to the hospital. When she fell out, she dropped the papers. After the EMTs left with her, Jim Turner picked up the papers and looked at them. Then that disgusting POS almost fell out. If things hadn't been so serious, it might have been funny. But I saw no humor in the ending of a marriage, so I have no sympathy for either one of them. If you like, I will keep you posted on things here.
Yes, I would appreciate that. My phone rang again. It was Melissa. Hello.
Lillian has been taken to the hospital.
So,
Just thought you would like to know.
nope. I don't give a sh.
Are you really that cold-hearted, Dave?
You can blame your sister for my cold-heartedness. I told you yesterday that it was going to get messy. This is just the first round. Adam Barnes called almost daily. He was having fun. He was the only one that knew the whole story. Lillian came to work, but just sat there except for the time she was out meeting with her attorney. Lillian and Morrison never spoke to each other, at least not in the presence of others. Me. I was just biding my time. Our attorneys scheduled a meeting with them, Lillian and me. It was the first time I had seen her since I kicked her out the damn house. I couldn't help but notice that she had lost a little weight and looked a bit disheveled. I was surprised to see Melissa there. Lillian's attorney asked if that was okay. I looked at her and asked, "Are you sure you want to be here?"
I'm here for Lillian.
That's not what I asked.
No, but I need to be.
I told the attorney that I had no objection to her staying. Lillian had already seated herself, so the rest of us sat, and her attorney started.
Mrs. Williams adamantly denies the alleged adultery and is asking that the petition for divorce be dismissed and that she and her husband work to maintain the marriage. She consents to counseling if that will help.
My attorney and I just looked at each other and smiled. My attorney said,
If no adultery took place, would Mrs. Williams care to explain her actions on the evening in question?
We all looked at her.
I would be happy to. I will start with when my gentleman friend came to pick me up.
Does your gentleman friend have a name?
Of course, but his name is not important. Nothing bad happened, so there's no reason to bring him into this. I left the house and got in his car. We went to the hotel.
She went on to repeat, almost word for word, what she had told Melissa and, of course, what Melissa told me. Champagne, dinner, more champagne. In the room, and both passed out, slept all night. Home the next day, and husband kicked her out. Oh, me. Pua misunderstood me. I made a mistake. I love my husband and want him to forgive me so we can have children and grow old together. I looked at Melissa, who was hanging on every word and nodding in agreement. My attorney spoke up.
Okay, let's assume for the moment that what you just said is true and that no intimate relations took place. During the course of the evening, was there any touching or groping of any type? Any kissing, hand-holding, anything that would not pass the husband test?
Absolutely not.
My attorney looked at me, and I looked at her. Sitting in front of me was a remote control. I picked it up and pressed play. A screen dropped out of the ceiling, and on the screen was the image of Lillian approaching Jim Turner's car in our driveway. He got out of the car, came around to her side, and opened her door. When she reached the car, they kissed. A long kiss. They got in the car and left. I pressed pause.
Line number 1.
Lillian was pale, and Melissa just sat there and stared at her sister. On the Thursday that Adam Barnes first called me and I talked to my investigator, the plan we came up with was to video every move Lillian made on Friday evening, starting with Jim Turner's arrival at our house. We knew from Barnes's information where the date was to take place, and we knew they had already booked the room. We even knew the room number. What we didn't know was if he could get into the actual room they had booked and set up video devices that could record any action that might take place. As it turned out, he could.
You also said that no inappropriate touching or fondling took place. Is that also correct?
Yes.
I pressed play for the second time. We watched as the happy couple followed the waiter to their table in the Radisson's restaurant. Morrison's hand was on Lillian's butt. We could even see him squeezing it.
Line number 2.
Her attorney was busily reading the divorce petition. The video continued. Lillian and Morrison ordered a bottle of champagne. They never stopped kissing until it arrived. They hadn't finished their first glass when they jumped up and headed for the elevators. It cost me $3,000 for my investigator to get a camera in their room, and as soon as they entered, Lillian was all over him. At this point, Lillian screamed and ran out of the room, followed by Melissa. I pressed pause.
It seems like my client didn't accurately recall all of the events of that evening. I will talk with her and get back to you.
Her attorney gathered his papers, stuffed them in a folder, and scurried after the two sisters. My attorney and I chatted for a few minutes, and I headed back to work. Later that evening, Melissa knocked on my door. "What do you want?" I asked. She said,
I'm so sorry for everything that happened.
"Thanks for your apology."
Can I come in?
I said sure, and I let her in. She sat on the couch and asked me to come sit beside her. I said fine and sat beside her. I barely got my cheeks in the seat before she was all over me. "What are you doing?"
I've always wanted you, and I've seen the way that you look at me, and I know you want me to.
She was right. I've always been attracted to her. No, that's not quite right. I have lusted over her, and I couldn't believe this was happening. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't thinking about Lillian's betrayal. Melissa was receiving my undivided attention. We kissed passionately. We were all over each other. I hadn't been with any other woman than Lillian, and now here I am all over her sister and loving every minute of it. Melissa pulled away and stood up. Looking lustily into my eyes, she took my hand and led me up to my bedroom. Lillian was the only woman to ever sleep in that bed. Now I was about to share it with her sister. But we won't be sleeping. I've been secretly seeing Melissa now for 3 months. I haven't felt this good in years. Melissa wants us to stop sneaking around and bring our relationship out in the open. For now, I'm just enjoying having her as my little secret. What would you do?